Episode 59 of the Back of the Class podcast. My name's Ben.
My name's Glenn.
Before we start off this week's episode, we'd like to say a huge thank you to our sponsors: Balgriffin Inn, Pitchside Pizza and Grill, VAR Electrical, Coco's Cakes and Orem. And this week we're joined by
Ryan Curtis.
Thanks a lot for coming in. How are you?
Appreciate it, boys. Thanks very much for having me on.
It's nice to have you in. For the listeners who may not know who you are or what you do, can you introduce yourself and tell us what you think they might learn off this episode?
So, my name is Ryan Curtis, or some people might know me as Ryan Chaos Curtis, and I'm a former professional MMA fighter who was paralysed from the neck down about a year and a half ago now. And what I think that the listeners could learn from me is just different ways of dealing with the mindset and a different way of looking at life, you know, because I really believe that life is all about perspective and what way you look at it. And you know, where any of the other podcasts or videos that I do, a lot of people tell me that my videos have been a big help in kind of making them see things a little bit differently.
Daily.
Legend.
Appreciate it, boys.
How have you been at the minute? You busy?
Yeah, flat out. Yeah,
You've been
literally
on?
only done a talk this morning with a bunch of school kids, yeah, like 16, 17 year olds.
What were you talking to them though?
It was a school over in Ballyfermot and stuff, and just like talking about like kind of what way to be looking at life, and you know, how to deal with setbacks and deal with adversity. And you know, I think I was very relatable for them kids because of where I come from. I'm from like Dublin 1, and it's not really the best area, and there's like a lot of crime going on at the minute in Ballyfermot as well. And there's just been a lot of drugs in my family, and you know, people around me and stuff like that have been mixed up in a lot of stuff. So I think openly talking about it and things like that, you know, to let kind of kids know that other people go through stuff like that, you know, too. So yeah, it was a good talk, to be honest. Yeah, they were a great bunch of kids.
Something I was going to ask is, how did you adapt or like find it getting into public speaking at first and doing talks? Because I've seen you've done a few now.
Yeah, I don't, you know, I just kind of like, it was grand for me because, you know, I suppose I know some people are a little bit intimidated and afraid by it, but like, what's kind of speaking in front of like people, like in a room full of people, when you're already at the getting into your jocks and fighting in front of thousands of people in a cage. There's way more consequences in a cage than just standing up and speaking in front of people. But it's so strange because I look at it like that, but then I know some of my fighter friends who'll be like, I'd never be able to speak in front of people like the way you do, and I'm like, you literally fight in front of thousands of people and you're grand. Yeah. You know, so for me it was okay because there's no consequences like what you stutter or you kind of get mixed up on something. You just go like everybody. That happens to anybody. So it doesn't, and then the more you do it, the more you get comfortable with it, and then you're grand doing it. Yeah,
like the worst consequence is embarrassment, isn't it?
Yeah,
really?
it's like, and who's embarrassed? You're embarrassed in your own head, but no one's thinking like, this fella's a weapon, he's at the stuttering, or do you know, whatever that happens to anybody. So it doesn't, like, you're only really embarrassed in your own head.
That's something I was saying on one of them, my TikTok motivation pages. It was an interview with two fellas. I don't know who they were. And somebody said, he was like, what's the best thing you've ever heard? And he said, I was at a party one time and some fella said to me, embarrassment is an underexplored emotion, go out there and find it.
Exactly.
And he said it's so true, no matter how embarrassed you are or what, just go for it, and the embarrassment will slowly fade out, and it'll be a lot harder to get you embarrassed then, and that's a good thing. Like, it's just, embarrassment is this big shock to the brain because it rarely ever happens to you.
Yeah. I just think like embarrassment is only really is bad in your head. You know, it's only really bad in your head. Like think about it this way. Think about if you seeing somebody doing something, like, you wouldn't be like, or what, you know, unless it was something crazy, yeah, of course. But, you know, for the most part, just like day-to-day things, like, you know, it's only really, you're only ever really embarrassed the most in your head, and you're the only one really ever thinking about it for like a prolonged period of time. After something happens, you know, even if it is really embarrassing, people just forget about it next day.
Yeah.
But then you're living it over in your head, and, you know, we find that everything is always worst in your head on reflection. Like, whatever you even think about, like a really embarrassing time in your life, it probably actually wasn't that embarrassing, but you know, when you replay it in your head, even if it's years later, you're like, oh, that was a really embarrassing time, but really it probably wasn't, you know.
And it's the people below you that only try and drag you down anyway, because like the more I'm doing this and the more I'm putting myself out there and sort of put myself in the line of fire for embarrassment.
Yeah, of course.
The more I look around and see other people doing things, whether they're starting TikToks or they're trying to make funny videos, they're trying to be a comedian, they're trying to be a footballer, and they're putting themselves out there, or they're making themselves fail in front of people to pursue whatever they're pursuing, I'd be the first to say, you know, fair play to them. Well, I know how hard it is to step out of my comfort zone and how to actually shoot for something. So fair play to them, like, or fair play to her or whatever it is. So
Yeah, because I always say the loudest boos come from the cheapest seats. And that's the truth, you know. Think about like anybody, yeah, like it's like you'll never meet a hater doing better than you, and that's the truth. Because, you know, for me, like, imagine somebody telling me like they wanted to, it's the first day in the gym and they want to win a world title. I'm never gonna turn around and go, oh, that's stupid or whatever. It's like, yeah, you absolutely can. But somebody else who probably wouldn't do that be like, you win a world title, that'll never happen. But I mean, what are you doing? And it's usually somebody who would say, make that kind of statement, isn't doing anything in their life. And that's what I always say, you know, the biggest failure is to not try anything, to get to your life and go like, oh, I really want, because everybody really wants to do something. It's just, are you willing to be embarrassed in your own, because again, going back to it, are you willing to be embarrassed in your own head? Because it's not even really embarrassing, it's just, you just think it's embarrassing, or else you're afraid of what other people are thinking. But like, say for instance, you know, like if you really want to do something, think in your head, who would you be embarrassed about saying something about you, or if they have said something about you, and think about that person, whoever it is that pops to mind. They're probably not even really doing anything with their own life. You know, that's what you know, and because it's not people who's doing well who criticise you. Like you know, there's so many good fighters who give me tips and whatever, like from fighting or just life, but it was always like from a good place. And then there was like people, like fat drunk people at the bar, and they'd be like, oh, you should have thrown more jabs, and I'm like, mate, you'd die if you went up a flight of stairs and you're telling me how to throw jabs in front of like all these people here when there's another murderer across the cage from me and he's looking to take me out, and you have no idea how difficult it is. And that was one thing about me that I always, like, I was proud of myself of, that I have actually never cared about what people like that thought of me. You know, I never, even all the hate like online after the bad loss or whatever, like I actually never used to really get to me, to be honest, because I always say, like, a ship can only sink if the water from the outside gets in. And like, I really used to believe, you know, when I'd see these people commenting on my stuff after a bad loss, and you click into their profile and they're just weapons, do you know what I mean? They're not doing anything, and I'm just like, I actually never really cared about it. You know, if it was somebody close to me and they were really good and they would say something more, like, I respected their opinion, and they said something bad or hurtful, like, that'd get to me. But that never really happened, because the people who I respected and who was close to me would only give me advice. They would say, like, yeah, you know, all my coaches and stuff, my coaches were a bit ruthless. They'd be like, you need to work on this, you need to work on that, but they would never put me down, and I only knew it was coming from a good place, you know.
Yeah. Have you ever read the Man in the Arena? Theodore Roosevelt. That's Theodore so Roosevelt, true, isn't it? Like, it's like what you were saying, like, it's only the people who are in the seats are gonna judge the man in the octagon or the ring or whatever it may be.
Yeah, or what yous are doing or what anybody is doing. It's like what you're saying about putting yourself out there, you know. There's always going to be some criticism of you when you put yourself out and you're doing stuff that other people aren't doing. Because, and I think part of that is, like, I really believe, like, part of that is that the people who are kind of slagging you or saying stuff, they want to do stuff. They just, you know, they're too afraid or too embarrassed to do it themselves, so it's easier to slag other people. That's what I believe.
You seem to have a very driven and strong mindset. How do you think you built that?
Failures, you know, just fail, you know, just learn, just not being afraid to fail. You know, that's what I say. It's like, if you knew you're 50 failures away from your goal, how fast would you want to fail?
Yeah.
You know, and that's it. Like, every time I fail at anything in life, I don't think like, oh, that's a nightmare. And, you know, it's just like, okay, that's just one way. Now I know that I don't do it that way anymore. I have to do it a different way. You know, and I keep on, like, I want, like, I nearly always want to fail. You know, because I say you should fail your way to success. Because the more failures, the more you're just figuring out, okay, that's a way that I shouldn't do it anymore. It's nearly like a learning thing. I don't look at failure in a way that a lot of people look at failure. A lot of people get, like, very disheartened and, like, upset when they fail something. But I'm like, oh yeah, that's just part of it.
Yeah,
you know,
get lucky or you learn.
Like, I really, it just doesn't bother me failing, because I know I've heard just so many successful people say that they've failed time and time and time again until they get it right. Like, it's like that quote, I don't know the exact quote, but it's like the quote about Michael Jordan saying that, like, he won all this NBAs and it's only because he missed all the shots. Do you know what I mean? That's it. Like, you just have to fail your way to success.
Fail forward, yeah. That's something that Roddy said to us, and it is a fact.
Yeah.
We've even found that, like, on things, you're not going to win them all.
No.
I think failures make the actual win worthwhile.
Absolutely, because,
like, if you were to win everything, I don't think you'd value anything.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You know, and that's what people don't understand. You know, if it kind of be like, what good would wins? You know, like I always say, bad times wouldn't be so. Like, good times wouldn't be so good if bad times weren't so bad.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why you kind of need peaks and valleys. Life is peaks and valleys. You know, like, that's why I listened to a good bit of Jordan Peterson as well, and he talks about, like, you know, because I remember years ago, if someone had said to me, like, what's your goal in life, I always would have said happy, to be happy. Like, happiness should be your number one goal. And then, like, I heard Jordan Peterson talk about, like, it's literally impossible to be happy all the time, because you're gonna get, like, sick. I'm a perfect example of that. Or people around you is gonna die. There's just so much going on in life that there's always gonna be bad that's gonna happen. And he says, like, as long as you have purpose, that should be the main goal in life. As long as you have purpose, because if you have purpose, then you can get up every day and you can still do stuff regardless of how you feel. If you feel bad, you can grow up. If you feel sad, you can grow up. If you feel happy, if you feel great, you can still grow up as long as you have purpose. But if you're just waiting to be happy all the time, you know, it's not realistic.
Not a destination.
Exactly, it's a journey.
Something I always say is, like, even on our own losses, I always say to myself, like, think of your past wins while going for the win you want now. So, like, in a sense, like, be grateful for what you have achieved while going for something else. Because I think so many times we've took losses and you'll beat yourself up over it or whatever, but when you actually think of the things you have won, it gives you that drive to go for something else then.
That's like something David Goggins says. I only finished reading his book.
Class.
And he talks about this thing called the cookie jar. And the cookie jar is this made up thing in his mind, and he'd add these things called cookies, which are thoughts, into this jar. So, like, good thoughts of him, whether he completed a marathon or whether he completed the Navy SEALs training or whether he just got a certain amount of money or got a car or had a kid or blah blah, and all of this stuff that makes him happy. Put these all into the cookie jar, close it up, so when he was 50 miles deep into a race, or he took a bad loss, or he broke his leg and he didn't see a way forward, he couldn't, his mind was about to break, he'd think, right, let's open the cookie jar, let's take it out, and he'd start thinking about things that are in the cookie jar. So, like, he'd start thinking about his kid, or he'd start thinking about, I'm only at the completing a double marathon or a 100-mile race or blah blah blah, and all of this stuff from the cookie jar would keep him motivated and keeping going, and that's something that I'd sort of instill in my mind now, because it's great to have that to sort of fall back on, no matter how big or small. You've won before, you can do it again. Sort of.
It's like what you've done, overcoming a thing that most people I think they can't. That's like your cookie jar. You know you've done that, so there's nothing else you can't not do. You know what I mean?
And that's it. So like if you're talking about it like that, like I had so much of my cookie jar before the accident, and then people think like, oh, I've only been like, if you listen to what I'm saying now, like you can go back to my social media probably 10 years ago and you can hear me say all the same stuff. It's just because I've done what I said I was gonna do. Now people kind of take notice and go, oh, like what all the stuff that he's saying does work. I've been saying the same stuff forever, you know, because I always focused on the mind from fighting. But again, like I had so much in the cookie jar from growing up where I grew up, seeing the stuff that I was saying, like all the stuff in my family, you know, going through hardship there. So I already knew, even before fighting, that I was well equipped to get through anything in my life. You know, because I had been through the hardship, and too many people avoid the hardship. But the hardship is what gets you through the hard times that's gonna come. Like that's what I say, hard times is coming for everybody. It doesn't matter who you are, you know. If you're going through something hard now, you know, the way life works is you're going through something hard now, you're gonna get through that hard time, then you're gonna go like a period where you're gonna be like happy, or you're just going through life, and then another hard time is gonna come. So what I think is you should be looking to go through hardships and build discipline and stuff like that. And what I mean by that is, like, obviously you don't, like, it's not to say that if you're from like a poverty stricken area or bad stuff has happened in your family that you can't go through hard stuff. Of course you can, but it's like obviously everybody isn't dealt them like them kind of cards in their life, you know. But what way you can kind of seek out hardship is, we all know the kind of stuff that we don't want to do in life, or we're avoiding, you know what I mean? Like, for some people that's like going to the gym, like for some people that's like sticking to a routine, like, you know, eating well, or, you know, it might be for other people that might be like something that you're really afraid of, like you're talking about public speaking. Like, you should always do what you're afraid of, you know, because that builds kind of discipline and courage and resilience for when the hard times come, because the hard times they're always going to come. Nobody in life gets through life without hard times, and in my opinion the best people in life have gone through the most. You know, the kindest, like any of the kindest, like most caring people have gone through, who I've met, who have had the hardest life. You know, and that's because I just think that they've gone through all this hard times, and, you know, it just gives them more kind of like empathy towards other people who are going through hard times. And like that, like some of the strongest people I know who have had the toughest lives.
What would you say to somebody right now who might be listening to this and they could be struggling, whether they can't see a way out, whether it's a job, whether it's an injury, or whether everybody around them is doubting them and they're on the verge of breaking? What would you say to them?
I'd say nobody's coming to save you. You know, nobody cares about your life like you care about your life. And you might be going through a hard time, but if you just keep on showing up every day, no matter how you feel, your life will get better. But you have to take your life into your own hands, and you can't sit there and wait for somebody to come along. You know, your ma, your dad, your brother, your sister. You can't wait for anybody to come along and try and make your life better, because you're the only one who can make your life better. And your life will get better, but you need to show up every day, regardless of how you feel. If you feel great, show up. If you feel sad, show up. Whatever mood you're in, you should show up, because you have to be disciplined. Like, you can't be a slave to your emotions, you know. That's one thing about me. When I was going through the accident, I was never, you know, there was so many days where I wanted to just lie in bed and do nothing, but at the end of the day I knew that my life was only going to get better if I done something about it, you know. So that's what I would say, just grow up and show up every single day, no matter how you feel.
Totally.
Something I actually heard 50 Cent saying was, see the way we were talking about, like, kind of making sure your mindset is ready for the hard times. somebody asked 50, I think it was 2 years after he got shot, and he was telling him that like he didn't obviously visualise himself getting shot, but he knew that he had the mental capacity to deal with if something like that went wrong.
Yeah.
Because obviously he's selling crack since a kid.
Yeah, and he's saying a lot
so
of mad
he
stuff.
knew that could happen to me, and would I have the mental resilience to get through it? And that's what he said, pulled him through it basically. Was being prepared for them.
Yeah, because if you've been through hard times and you're confident, you know, if you've already been through hard times, that gives you the confidence to go, I can handle anything. Yeah. That's why, to be honest, when the accident happened, like, I really didn't care. People used to ask me all the time, why are you so happy, like, you know what I mean, and why are you able to laugh and joke, like, you literally can't even pick up your phone, or you can't brush your own teeth, you're just lying there paralysed from the neck down and you're so happy. And I'm like, because I'm gonna show you what I already know.
Yeah.
You know, this is already done. I already know what's going to happen. You just need to see it. And I think everybody, when I was saying all this, they thought I was some sort of psychopath, you know, and I just really believed, like, I'd be back here doing everything that I said I was going to do. And I have done everything I've said I've done. You know, like getting back walking, getting back running, like, you know, it's like even one thing getting out of a wheelchair to walk again, like, they told me, like, running was going to be absolutely impossible. That's just like unheard of, you know, especially with, you know, when you're paralysed from the neck down, it's a little bit different because, like, it controls your whole body. It's not just about, like, you know, your legs just not working anymore. There's so much to it when you're paralysed from the neck down, you know. So they were just kind of looking at me like I was a lunatic when I was telling them that I was going to do all these things, and yeah, I'm not like a lunatic now.
Tell us a bit about the accident. Tell us how much did it change your life, or how did, in the first few days after, even the day it happened, how did you keep your mind so strong? A lot of people, that would have broken a lot of people, and a lot of people wouldn't have came back from that.
No, the first day was very hard. I remember that the first day was really hard because the accident happened on the Thursday. And then I woke up on the Friday. I was obviously had to get in the operation because when the accident happened. So basically what happened was I had a big fight coming up and I was fighting for a belt, and it was literally like any other training session, and it was about 15 minutes before the end, and we were doing some wrestling drills, and my arm got trapped, and the guy kind of picked me up and suplexed me on the side that my arm had been trapped on, so I couldn't post out my arm to kind of stop myself. So he picked me up and my arm was pinched in here. So when I went, I just remember being so high up in the air, and I just remember looking down at the mat and goes, oh, this is not going to be good, you know. So when I hit the mat, I snapped my neck, and I was like, just couldn't move anything, you know. I could move bits, but it was like, it's so crazy. It was like 10% power. It just felt like there was no way that I could ever just get up and walk at that point, like, you know. So went to the hospital, got rushed to the hospital, nearly died in the gym because I was losing breath. I couldn't breathe anymore, because when you get damage so high up on the spinal cord, controls your breathing, your diaphragm, you know. So I couldn't really breathe, and the ambulance took 2 hours to come, like, you know. So it was it was actually mental. So I got to the hospital and then got the operation that night, and then literally just woke up the next day and couldn't feel anything, couldn't move anything. I was just like paralysed from the neck down. And I remember that first day was very hard. I remember I just couldn't believe, like, I was kicking somebody in the head last night, and I'm literally lying here and I can't move one thing from the neck. You know, I could just kind of turn my head a little bit, and I couldn't even really do that at the time. And then I remember I was so upset that day. And then the next day, I just said, like, will you get yourself together? You're going to be grand. Like, this is only going to be, like, you're gonna get through this, you know. That me kind of, a lot of people's default is negative, but I had done so much work on myself that my default was positive. And when I woke up that next day, I was like, all right, let's get it together. We have a fight here and we have a long road ahead, but you're going to get through this and everything's going to be all right. And I just knew from that day forward, like, that I was going to do it. And they were telling me all how bad it was. And I, you know, they said it was like, I remember the surgeon telling me it was one of the, he was saying he's seen 2 really bad ones. And mine was one of the 2, and he said it's like one of the worst ones he's ever seen. Like, there's so much damage. And I remember I was just looking at him and I was like, you know, I'm going to get through this. And he was kind of just looking at me and I was kind of looking at him, and it was just, yeah, it was a mad time, but I was just so confident. You know, I was really confident.
Did you hold any resentment towards the training partner?
Not one bit. You know, people ask me that all the time. I remember very early on, I actually had him come up to the hospital room to see me. But it wasn't for me, it was for him. I just wanted him to get back to living his life and to not kind of be sitting around thinking about me. Like, I never held any resentment. Like, he didn't wake up that morning going like, oh, I'm going to break this guy's neck tonight. And, you know, it's just, that's what fighters, what competitors, it's what, you know, like, what going at it, it's a competitive sport. Like, you know, you're not there to play bingo, it's tough. Yeah. And that's what you sign up for, and these things happen. Yeah, it's like, it's not a common thing to happen. Practically never happens, but it did happen, and, you know, I signed up for that. I brought myself to the gym that day. Nobody made me fight. I went to the gym, so it was my fault in a sense, you know. I know I didn't break my own neck, but, you know, I brought myself to the gym and I knew what I was there for, so that's the way it is. Yeah, he's a nice guy, he's not a bad person. It was just the training accident that went wrong, do you know.
Tell us about the journey then to recovery. I'm sure there was lots of doctors and people doubting you, and I'm sure there was even thoughts in your own head. What kept you going? What kept you getting up and going at it?
Yeah, just, I suppose, like, on the days that was really tough for me, my daughter kept me going. I have a little 4-year-old daughter called Cassia, and yeah, she's the most important thing in the world for me, you know. So on the days that, like, I was really upset, and on the days that I didn't want to get out of bed, you know, because there were so many days where I didn't want to get out of bed, I was like, oh, this is really bleeding shit, I can't just get back living my life, and this, that and the other, you know. Those days, like, and there was never one day that I never got up. I got up every single day. There was never one day that I didn't get out of bed. But on the days that I felt really low, I remember just thinking, like, okay, if you're not going to show up today, you have to show up for Cassia, because you're at the making her a promise and telling her that you're going to do all these things when you get out of the hospital, because obviously she's only 4, she was 3 at the time, she didn't even understand what was going on, you know. But I was like, oh, Daddy's going to be out of here soon and we're going to get back dancing, you know. We used to dance the trolls and stuff like that, and just playing in general. And I'll never forget, like a really, really, like, one of the hardest days that I ever had throughout the whole thing was, I remember I was due to go to Colombia for stem cells when I left the hospital, but a little bit before that, I was able to see her and I was able to get out of the hospital for a little bit in the wheelchair, and I went to a playground with her, and she was like running around and she was screaming and she was like, come on Daddy, come on, we go play. And I remember that was just like the hardest thing in the world for me, because, like, I was like, I can't even get out of a wheelchair and play with her, you know. And that was so hard for me, to be honest. And I had to kind of explain to her. I was like, oh, Daddy's legs are just tired and they're gonna be back soon and I'm gonna be better soon and we'll play. But I remember just, like, actually when I went back to the hospital that night, I think I cried for the whole night, because I was just like, it was just a horrible feeling, to be honest, like, just not being able to play with her. So I just knew that, like, I was at the making her a promise, and, you know, that even on the down days and the dark times, that I had to fulfill the promise that I was at the making to her, you know. Even when on the days that I didn't want to come true for my own promise, like, you know, that I promised myself, I had to come true for her, because I'd never let her down, you know, and I will never let her down for as long as I live, you know.
Tell us about one of the best days then. Tell us when you started seeing progress in your journey, and it must have lit a little fire in your belly then, did it?
Yeah, it did, and I do always talk about this, like, you know, and those times, like, where I'm such a grateful person, like, you know, I've always been grateful, before the accident. I'm, like, even now, I always write 3 things that I'm grateful for every day, like, you know, and some days it's just like, you know, having food in your house, having a nice place to stay, being able to walk my dog, or having a dog, or whatever, like, you know, it doesn't always have to be, gratitude doesn't always have to be this, like, life-changing thing every single day. It's just, like, simple, like, or I get to do a podcast. I'm grateful for having my own podcast, like, with you guys, you know. So I've always been a grateful person, but when I talk about, you know, what it was like up, like, you know, going through it all, sometimes it was kind of, I don't want to say hard for me to be happy, but when I was doing all the stuff, I never was kind of jumping around or, like, super excited about it, because I remember even when I first took me 4 steps, I was like, yeah, but I knew I was going to do this. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was like everybody else was like, oh my God, like, you're taking steps, what's going on? And I was like, it wasn't like I didn't get excited, but it was like, but I already told you this was what was going to happen. So it was like I was just never shocked by anything that was happening. And when I was taking steps, I was like, okay, how do we get stronger so now we can take more steps for longer, for, you know, it was always about what was next. But also we're looking and being grateful for where I was at, because sometimes I kind of had to cop myself on a little bit and go like, oh, you're kind of just trying to rush along here and enjoy these times, because, you know, I know you said that you're going to do it all, but you're still doing it, do you know, because it's one thing saying it and it's another thing doing it. But I was just so confident, and I had visualised it so much that when I was doing all the stuff, everybody else was nearly more happy and more excited about it than I was. So, like, yeah, it was, even throughout it all, it was just like, it was just kind of, it was no shock to me. But I did kind of just say to myself, yeah, but be happy, because I was happy, but I was like, okay, what's next? So that's it, you know, and you kind of have to even be like that in life, because, you know, you always want stuff, and when you get them, you're kind of like, all right, what's next now? But it's like, no, you need to smell the flowers while you have them. You worked so hard to get to a certain position, and that was the position that you said to yourself, oh, when I get to that position, I'm going to be happy. But now here you are in this position and you're not happy because you want something else. So sometimes you just kind of have to be, you know, kind of like happy with what you have without getting complacent. You know, that's, you can't
more
ever
going for what you want.
Yeah.
So sort of what he said at the start, happy isn't a destination, it's the journey.
Yeah.
And that's the way I would look at success as well. It's not a destination, it's the journey to that
100%.
success, because as soon as you hit something like, for example, 50 Cent, he released an album that could have been, right, I release an album, I'll be happy. Then he went on release another one, and now he's probably set for life, and he's still going on and doing more stadium tours, doing world tours, meeting more people, doing remixes, the whole lot. And that's all because he realised that happy and success isn't a destination, it's the journey.
Yeah, it's a journey.
And it's all the things you do along the way.
And I think you'll never get the journey back. Like, you've only one life, and you're never actually gonna, like, the way I look at it is, like, even us, we've had a mad year, us and our other mate, and I was thinking, like, I was just looking at a few pictures of us last night, a few people that we've met, and I was like, I'll never get them days back, ever. Like, they're the stories I'm going to tell me kids in years to come. I'll never be able to go back to them days.
Yeah,
so
it's like what they say. I don't really watch The Office, but I was seeing a clip, and it's like, the good old days are happening right now.
Yeah.
And these are the days that you'll think back on in a couple of years and go like, or I should have enjoyed them more. And I would be somebody, even before the accident, I remember thinking that, because I remember always looking at kind of stuff along them lines, and I would always try and be happy in the moment, like, you know, and that's why I never really got stressed about fights and stuff, you know. Definitely, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, I never got nervous for fights or I never got the butterflies, but I remember people even used to say to me, like, you know, you're just going around here laughing and joking and having a buzz, and like, you're not nervous about going out in front and fighting in front of all these people. And I'm like, yeah, I am, but whatever is going to happen out there tonight is already done, so there's no point in me kind of sitting here stressing about everything and sitting away in the corner. Like, I'm trying to enjoy this. Like, this is, you know, times people would kill for, like, you know, like, and I'm talking about like retired fighters would do anything to be back there, you know. And even with me now, like, it's a bit sad for me to think, like, I'm never going to be able to get that feeling back of walking out for a fight again. Like, I'll get it from doing other things, but not like that, you know. But like, it kind of is what it is. Like you're saying, we talk about, like, I enjoyed it enough in the moment, so I was happy about that. Like, I didn't just try and wish it away or go like, oh, I wish this was tomorrow so the fight was over and the pressure would stop. I'd be like, no, I used to like being in it, you know. I would enjoy it, because I remember just think, take in all these moments now, because these moments only a small amount of people get to ever feel this feeling, and you're not always going to do it. So that doesn't even have to be about fighting. Like, it's like what you're saying, it's like, really enjoy these moments. Like, when you are world famous and you have one of the biggest podcasts in the world, you are gonna look back and go, remember that little spot we had in the Axis, and, you know, we didn't, like, it was just us two, and, you know. So yeah, enjoy these moments, because these are the moments who make you. And it's like what you're saying about the success, it's not even about the destination, and it's more even about or the journey either. It's more about the person you become on the journey. You know, that's it.
That's something I've always talked to people about, with the likes of, for example, we'll say Ronaldo, right? A lot of people think, oh, Ronaldo has this, like, he has this sort of mad ego, or I don't know how he deals with all this fame, or I don't know how he deals with all this money, or blah blah blah. And I'm like, Ronaldo wasn't born. He grew. He became that person. He wasn't born that person. He became that person through the journey. Like, he hit his first million, maybe. He got his first fan picture. He got his first club goal. He got his first country goal. And then he kept adding on and on and on to the journey. And then he became the person he is today. And it's the same with everybody else.
Yeah.
They're not born the person. They have to become that person in their own journey, and take little parts from each thing and add them on, like sort of stacking bricks on top of each other, and then eventually they'll be higher than they ever thought they could, or higher than they ever imagined.
Jay-Z said, and it was Jay-Z, like, back in the day, and he was saying that, like, my future movie is happening right now.
Yeah, 100%.
And, like, it's a great way to describe it. Like, if you look at what he is now from what he was, them 100%. Words became something, like.
And that's it, like, as well as that, like, you should always try and be the main character in your movie.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Don't ever try and be an extra in your own movie. And that's what I feel like too many people, like, I suppose the way life works, everybody can't be like a main character. I understand that. But, you know, I just think, like, if it's you in your life, you should always try and be the main character and not be like an NPC, like, do you know what I mean? It's just, you should nearly always kind of really, like, live your life like someone's following you around with the camera, and you're gonna watch your life back in a couple of years on a big screen in the pictures in front of everybody, and you're gonna be proud of your life, you know. And that's what you need to be doing, like, because you can kind of, like, you can kind of live a normal life if you like. A lot of people, like, kind of live normal lives and they don't want to do anything crazy with their life, and that's fine. Like, as long as you're happy, that's the main thing, you know. But just for me, like, I just always wanted to do extraordinary things, because I knew that was the only way to have an extraordinary life, you know. And that's it. Like, when I'm dying and I'm, like, reflecting back on my life, I don't ever want to be disappointed about something that I didn't do.
And I think it's important not to live your life on other people's terms. Like, 50 Cent says in one of his books, it's like I arrived on my own, so like he was born on his own, and I'm gonna die on my own. I think he says I'll be in a box on my own, and that is a great quote. It's a deep way of explaining it, but it does hit the reality. Like, you're the only person that you should listen to.
Yeah, 100%.
Or to live your own life.
Yeah, definitely.
A key trait in a lot of successful people is being able to pivot or adapt. How did you pivot or adapt after your accident?
I suppose I just adapted because I just had, like, honestly, like, supreme confidence in myself. Like, that literally wasn't like, they could have literally sent any single person into that room and told me, you know, this is never going to work out the way you think it's going to work out. And I just really didn't care. Like, you know, maybe I was delusional about it, because I suppose if you kind of look at the amount of people who come back from this injury, you would say I was delusional, because practically nobody comes back from it. And certainly not, like, I remember the lady in America was telling me that she had only seen 2 people like me in 16 years. And she said, I work with people with your injury all the time, every day. I've only ever seen 2 people like you in 16 years. And the other guy wasn't really able to do what you're able to do. So, you know, maybe I was super delusional about it, but, like, you know, I've always had that delusional self-confidence. So that's how I was able to just pivot and adapt, because, like, I suppose, imagine having this kind of, like, this person in your life who never let you down. Like, you know, you could just ring them at any time, whether it's 5 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, you're in the arsehole of nowhere and you need saving or whatever, and you could just ring this person and he'd always be there for you. I was that person for myself. Like, I never let myself down. If I had a fight coming up and I told myself the night before, right, you're getting up and you're going to do a 20-mile run at 3 in the morning, and I said that to myself, I never let myself down. I got up and done that 20-mile run at 3 in the morning. You know, if I said something to myself and I made a promise to myself, I never let myself down. So that's how I had that confidence to just go, I've always shown up for myself, and anything that I've said that I was going to do, I've always done it. And I'm telling me, like, this is the thoughts in my own mind at this time when I was lying in the bed, like, and I was like, we're going to do this, and you've always shown up for yourself, and this is no different, you know. So that's how I kind of got through it. It didn't really matter who was coming in and telling me any different. It was like, the doctor only knew me for kind of 1 or 2 days. Like, I know me my whole life, so how is a person that knows me 2 days or whatever it was gonna tell me what I'm able to do? You know, when I know me my whole life, and I know that I'm gonna do what I'm gonna say that I'm gonna do, because I've done everything that I said I was gonna do prior to that. Do you know?
Where do you get your confidence from?
Just showing up for myself, yeah. Showing and not letting myself down. Like, you know, I always say I hold myself to a certain standard, you know, and I don't drop that standard for anybody. I don't even drop that standard for myself. Like, you know, and what I mean is, I don't drop that standard for myself is, like, that time that I'm saying to you, like, if I wake up at 3 in the morning and I want to go on that 20-mile run that I've promised myself that I was due, it's not like myself is not trying to talk me out going on that run. Like, I'm lying in the bed and I'm going, oh, just stay in the bed, it's warm here, you know. Like, I'm fine with myself to do that, but I don't drop standards even for my own self. Even when I'm the one telling me, no, just lie in bed, look, you're after doing 20 workouts this week and you're broke up and your body's sore and all these things, and you start making up all these little excuses as to why you shouldn't do the 20-mile run because you've worked so hard all this week. But I just don't listen to it. You just block it out, you know, because I understand more than anybody that they're all little mental battles, and the more you kind of let yourself down and just let yourself make excuses, that's when the doubt sets in, you know. Because the reason how I was able to get through everything is because I was so used to winning all the little mental battles, you know. So But I think, like, when you start kind of saying to yourself, oh yeah, you know, look, I have to stick to a diet here and I have to make a way for the fight, and then halfway through the training camp you're like, or I'll just get a pizza on that day, and then the next day, oh yeah, I'll just get this chipper and I'll just, the boys want to go out, so I'll just go out and party with them. They're all little mental battles that now you're losing, and that's when the doubt sets in, because you know, when it's coming to fight time or it's coming to a hard time in your life, you know that you lost all them little mental battles because you didn't do what you said you were gonna do. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just that's where I get my confidence from, just showing up all the time for myself and knowing that as long as I make a promise to myself, I never break it. You know, because I feel like even as a man, like, you're only as good as your word, and if you tell somebody you're gonna do something, and it doesn't even have to be yourself, it could be a promise that you've made to somebody else, you should always follow through on what you said you were gonna do. And you know, I don't really respect anybody, men especially, if they promise somebody something and they don't follow through on it.
Yeah.
You know, that's just the way I live my life, because I feel like you're only as good as your word.
What's the best piece of advice you ever received, and what's the worst piece of advice you ever received?
The best piece of advice I ever received. The best piece of advice. Like, I've got to ask this question a few times, like, you know.
Yeah.
There's just like little nuggets that I've just got throughout my life, but I suppose I can't really remember who was kind of saying it to me, but it's just, even as opposed to a piece of advice, it was just kind of more people who I really respected around me all the time, and they would just tell me again, like, just never care what anybody else thinks you.
Yeah.
That is the most, I don't know if anybody's ever said that to me directly, but well, people definitely have said that directly to me, but like, one person just coming in and having a sit down with me, I don't think it's ever happened that way, but it's just being around so many successful people my whole life and listening to them just talking about like how only like a certain amount of people get to like elite level of like status or whatever in life, and there's only a small amount of people who reach that. And if you really cared about what other people think you'll never get to that level.
Yeah.
You don't, because if you really care so much what people think about you, you're always going to be caught up thinking about what people are thinking about you, as opposed to actually doing what you're supposed to be doing. And then you're just afraid to do stuff because you're always like, oh, what's that person going to think if I do this? What's that person going to think if I do this? Where, like I say, if... like, you can never really keep everybody happy, and I think Mike Tyson said, if you're a friend of everybody's, you're an enemy to yourself.
Yeah.
And I really do believe that, because think about you trying to keep everybody happy. If you try to keep everybody happy, there's no way that you would be able to kind of do what you wanted to do, because you'd be just so caught up in trying to keep everybody happy. And see, to be quite honest, me personally, I don't really trust anybody who tries to keep everybody happy. I don't, like, there's
kind of... it's a sign of a snake.
Yeah, I don't really trust people who try and, I speak the way I speak, and I talk the way I talk, and I act the way I act, and if you don't like that, that's grand. That's the way I live my life. Because 100% you can't like everybody, and you shouldn't like everybody, because there's always going to be people who's going to be doing stuff what you don't agree with. And I'm sure there's a lot of stuff where I say that people don't agree with, and that's grand. Like, that's life, that's the way it should be. Everybody shouldn't agree with what you say, but I'm just kind of like, if you don't agree with what I'm saying, that's grand. You don't need to agree with what I'm saying, and you don't need to be around me, and you don't need to be my friend. But I'm going to continue to be me, because that's the way I am. I'm just always going to be myself, and I'm never going to change myself for anybody. That's just the way, I live my life, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But some people just get caught up in kind of like thinking that someone's arrogant or cocky, or they're a dickhead or whatever if they act a certain way, like, you know, like, there's no question that when I was saying all the stuff at the start, people were like, this fella's a fool, you know, when I was saying all, like, what I was going to do, he's, you know, but at the end of the day, thankfully I didn't need any of them people to believe in me. I believed in myself.
Yeah.
You know?
Describe your mindset in 3 words.
Resilient. My mindset in 3 words. Resilient would be definitely one of them. Ambitious and grateful. Yeah, resilient, ambitious and grateful.
And was there ever a time in your life where you felt like a burden to like others, or you felt like you were letting people down, or
yeah, definitely. There's definitely been times, like, you know, even still to the day, like, you know, if I ask somebody to do something for me, and it's so crazy that like I really am, like, you could literally ring me at 5 in the morning and go like, Ryan, I need you to do this for me, and I'd be like, sound, where do you need me to be? You know, what do I need to do for you, whatever, you know. But sometimes, like, when I ask, I'm getting less and less, you know, because I suppose even throughout all this, there's so many people that kind of helped me and, you know, just done so much for me. So it is getting less and less, but sometimes I do feel like, you know, I don't ask somebody to do something, or I feel like a burden. But for the most part, now that I've matured, like, you know, I would have probably had that when I was a little bit immature when I was younger, but now that I'm more mature, and I suppose it gets less and less when you know yourself that you will help anybody, like, particularly like me close friends and family. They could literally ask me to do anything and I would do it for them in a heartbeat. So I suppose when you understand that about yourself, then you kind of feel less like a burden, because you're kind of, I'm kind of like, well, if I would do anything for you when you need me to do it, why should you not do anything for me when I need you to do it? Because that's what friends and
respect
close people, exactly. Do you know, it's not transactional. You know, it's not like, oh, I'm just doing this so when I need something you can do it for me. It's not like that at all. It's just, no, if, you know, I know that I would do anything for you.
Feelings
So
are mutual.
yeah, so if I'm ever in a spot of bother and I need you to do something for me, then you should. Or else, why are you here? Why are you in my life? Because if you can't rely on the people who's closest to you when you need them most, then why are they in your life?
Yeah.
You know, it makes no sense.
What goals are you currently working towards?
I suppose the biggest goal in my life right now is to just help people. You know, to just kind of help people see life a little bit different, and, you know, kind of just think about things different, and just with that help them with their mindset a little bit, because I kind of feel like I'm obligated now to do it, because so many, when I put up like kind of content on social media or this and that, you know, I got a lot of DMs and people tell me like that I've helped them so much with their own life, and sometimes I'd be slacking a little, like I have a few bits going on in the background. I'm really busy right now and I've been slacking a little bit on social media, but I do really need to do it a little bit more, like, you know, and I need to get, to be honest, like, social media is something that I need to be a little bit more disciplined on, because people talk about discipline, you know, but discipline is doing things that you don't really want to do, but you know it's gonna pay off for you in the future.
Yeah.
You know, for me, like right now, like discipline's not really it doesn't take any discipline for me to go to the gym. Like people will say to me like, geez, you train twice a day, like, you know, and like I used to train 3 times a day when I had fights coming up, and for me that really never really took discipline, because I used to just love doing it so much. Like, yeah, it does take discipline, and it takes discipline to eat well and live a certain lifestyle, definitely. But discipline is not really doing something when you enjoy to do it. Discipline is doing something when you don't enjoy to do it, but you know it's going to pay off in the future.
Yeah.
Do you know, that's what real discipline, because I hear people talk about, like, people who's in the gym talk about discipline and stuff, but it's like, it's not really discipline because you like going to the gym. For me to go to the gym, it's not really discipline because I love being in the gym.
Yeah.
So discipline for me, I need to be more disciplined with social media at the minute, I suppose. Because social media, whether you love it or hate it, opens so many doors for you. You know, and it's just something that I'm still not the best at. Because it definitely is a skill set. You know, we talk to so many people who's really good at social media and they've huge followings and they're doing so well off it. And, you know, just even I was like talking to a girl, Terry McAvoy, and I was doing a whole podcast before, and she was like she's like a really big influencer, and she was like one of the first people to talk to me about social media like it was a business. But the way she was talking to me about it, I almost felt like it was one of my coaches breaking down a fight or breaking down a technique. She just really she had a good understanding of it, you know. So it's definitely a skill thing. It's just I'm still only catching up on it, you know.
Daily. Is there anything you wish we had have asked you or think we could do better to bring to the next interview?
No, to be honest, like I'm very impressed with the questions that the both of us have asked, and just the understanding of the conversation and the mindset, and just the way you are just saying little bits here and there about different people saying different things. Like obviously, love 50 Cent. You've talked about him a good bit, like, and you know, you've mentioned me coach Owen Roddy, like, you know, a legend around here in Ballymun. But the questions are great, but obviously I'm not going to say they're perfect because nothing's perfect, because you constantly need to be listening back and going like, oh, maybe I should have said this or that, you know what I mean? So yeah, nothing's perfect, you know. That's the way it is, so you should constantly look to get better. But yeah, the questions have been great, to be honest.
Great. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Before we end, I'd like to say you're a huge inspiration to me. There's few things you've said tonight that are going to stick with me for the rest of my life. So
thank you for being Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, boys.
So episode 59 wrapped up.